In the heart of the Philippines, a nation rich in culture, history, and diversity, lies a topic that has sparked debate and curiosity for generations: the concept of Filipino indolence. Often discussed but seldom understood, this notion has been both a source of pride and controversy shaping the narrative of the Filipino people. Welcome to Unraveling the Myths of Filipino Indolence, a journey that delves into the layers of this complex idea and seeks to uncover the truth behind the stereotypes and misconceptions that have clouded the understanding of the Filipino culture. To understand the origins of the myth of Filipino indolence, it is essential to delve into the historical context in which it emerged. During the Spanish colonial period, the notion of indolence was used by colonizers to justify their oppressive rule and assert the need for external control. The stereotype served as a convenient explanation for any perceived shortcomings in the local population, conveniently diverting attention from the adverse effects of colonization itself.
During the late 19th century, the Philippines was under Spanish colonial rule from 1565 to 1899. The colonial period was marked by economic exploitation through the galleon trade, limited education opportunities controlled by friars, and social inequality. The majority of Filipinos faced poverty while the ruling Spanish class held power and wealth. The establishment of the galleon trade cut off all previous associations of the Philippines with other countries in Asia and in the Middle East. As a result, business was only conducted with Spain through Mexico. Because of this, the small businesses and handicraft industries that flourished during the pre-Spanish period gradually disappeared. Spain also extinguished the natives' love of work because of the implementation of forced labor. Filipinos were compelled to work in shipyards, roads, and other public works, abandoning agriculture, industry, and commerce. Spain did not protect the people against foreign invaders and pirates. With no arms to defend themselves, the natives were killed, their houses burned, and their lands destroyed. As a result, the people were forced to become nomads, lost interest in cultivating their lands or in rebuilding the industries that were shut down, and simply became submissive to the mercy of God.
There was a crook of education. What was being done in the schools were repetitive prayers and other things that could not be used by the student to lead the country to progress. There were no courses in agriculture, industry, and other fields which were badly needed by the Philippines during those times.
The Spanish rulers were a bad example to despise manual labor. The officials reported to work at noon and left early, all the while doing nothing in line with their duties. The women were seen constantly followed by servants who dressed them and fanned them, personal things which they ought to have done for themselves. Gambling was established and widely propagated during those times. Almost every day, there were cockfights, and during feast days, the government officials and friars were the first to engage in all sorts of bets and gambles.
There was a crook system of religion. The friars taught the naive Filipinos that it was easier for a poor man to enter heaven, and so they preferred not to work and remain poor so that they could have easily entered heaven after they died. The taxes were extremely high, so much so that huge portion of what Filipinos earned went to the government or to the friars. And when the objects of their labor was removed and they were exploited, they were reduced to inaction.
Debunking the myth. Educational disparities. Unequal access to education and opportunities may contribute to a perception of indolence. Lack of educational resources and opportunities can hinder personal and professional development. Limited infrastructure and resources. In many regions, particularly rural areas, there may be a lack of schools, classrooms, and educational materials. Insufficient infrastructure can hinder access to quality education, making it difficult for individuals to acquire the skills needed for better employment opportunities. Insufficient support systems. Educational success often requires support systems such as tutoring, mentorship, and guidance counseling. Communities lacking these resources may find it challenging to provide the necessary assistance to students facing academic difficulties.
The system of education back in the Spanish era is more on repetitive prayer rather than developing agriculture, industry, and commerce. We can't develop economically when the system of education is very repressive and very backward. It is not developing agriculture, industry, and commerce. One historical example often cited in discussions about Filipino indolence is the resistance to forced labor during the Spanish colonial period. Some argue that this resistance was misconstrued as indolence, but it's important to note that such interpretations are complex and don't capture the full spectrum of Filipino work ethic or the challenges faced during that time. Filipino indolence is rooted in colonial writings such as those during the Spanish era, which sometimes depicted Filipinos as lazy or lacking in work ethic. This perspective, however, has been widely criticized as a stereotype that doesn't accurately represent the diverse and hardworking nature of the Filipino people. Understanding the historical context and challenging such stereotypes is essential for a more accurate portrayal. Spanish rulers were a bad example to despise a manual labor. Rizal noticed that Spanish administrators wake up late and will go to their office and leave early from their work, compared to Filipino farmers who will wake up early to go to their farms to avoid the heat.
In summary, the historical context presented aligns with the themes and concerns that Rizal addressed in his life and works. His writing serves as a critique of the oppressive Spanish colonial regime and aims to inspire social and political change in the Philippines. The issues of education, economic exploitation, and cultural misrepresentation were central to Rizal's advocacy for reform in national identity.
In our opinion, the notion of Filipino indolence is a stereotype that oversimplifies a complex historical and socio-economic reality. While it is essential to acknowledge that there were challenges faced by the Filipino people during the colonial period, reducing their struggles to laziness is an unfair generalization. Throughout history, Filipinos have demonstrated resilience, hard work, and adaptability in the face of adversity. Today, the Philippines is a nation with a vibrant and hardworking population, contributing significantly to various fields globally. It is crucial to recognize the impact of historical factors on the development of a society and avoid perpetuating stereotypes that do not accurately reflect the character and capabilities of the Filipino people. In conclusion, discussions about Filipino indolence should be approached with a nuanced understanding of historical context and a recognition of the diverse factors that contribute to the socio-economic conditions of any given time. It is more productive to focus on empowering individuals and communities, addressing systemic issues, and fostering an environment that promotes growth and development.